Good evening, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us for the fourth in our set of FDIN Jobs webinars. Tonight's webinar is seeing the hidden market to find the job you want faster. Webinars we've run so far have taken you through key steps to your job hunting journey, creating a LinkedIn profile, preparing and following up on your first. And you can find all of those on our YouTube channel. But what happens if you haven't found yet that you fancy the look of using all the channels you're familiar with? Where else can you go to look for opportunities? There's some more obscure, there's networks to use, more natural or subtle approach to your career journey. And this is what we're going to find out now. There's Sam Waterfall, founder of Obvious Candidate, and bestseller, The Hidden Jobs. Find next. The webinar is scheduled to take no more than 1 hour, and we really hope that of value. Of course, any feedback when it's finished. We're also sending a recording of the webinar over the next few days. Make sure everything's working okay, and you can reply using the chat box on the right-hand side. So, and we really want the webinar to be as interactive as possible. So, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box, and I'll be moderating throughout the evening. So anyone that hasn't told us where they are, just do type in where in the country or indeed the world you might be dialing in from. So if anybody hasn't let us know, if you could just pop something in the chat box here, then we'll know. That would be great. Oh, I'm going to just... Ukraine. Wow, I don't think we've had anyone from Ukraine before. Thank you, Kashyap.
Kashyap, good to see you there. Thank you for joining. So I've seen your Facebook updates from Ukraine recently. Very good to have you on the call. Thanks for being there.
Super. And John, where are you dialing in from? Though I have a suspicion I might know. Oh. Okay. And we're also going to be running some polls throughout the evening. So we're going to just try those out to make sure they work okay. So here's a quick one that we're just going to put up now so I can find out what kind of job category you're currently working in. So what kind of job category you're currently working in? Sam's just going to pop a poll up now for you.
So you should see that poll now appearing on the right-hand side of your screen, and you should be able to just click to vote.
Right, okay. So at the moment we've got a three-way tie. I know we're a bit heavier in R&D at the moment. You never have people from nutrition regulatory joining these events. Maybe they've got it all and innovation, R&D, and a good bias towards brand and marketing here. Great, okay. Any more?
I'm ending the poll.
Lovely.
So you should see a result on your screen at the moment.
Fantastic. Thank you. And finally, just one more question, which is, which would be your first port of call when looking for a new job? So if you were choosing to look for a new job, where's the first place that you would choose to go? So if you just click in and answer, that would be great. Let's take a few. Right, okay, good. Recruitment agencies and Indeed looking like they're coming out of the winners at the moment. That's interesting.
I think we better do a promotion for FDIN Jobs, Jane.
I think we need to. I think I need to move swiftly onto that now. That's fantastic. Okay, great. Thank you very much for doing that. Lovely. Okay, Sam, let's move on to the next chart. Thank you.
Sure.
So I'm going to take you through the agenda for tonight. A quick welcome and introductions. Then I'm going to, some of you have joined us before, but for some of you may be new to the FDIN and who we do. So forgive me, I'll spend a few minutes taking you through that again. I hand over to Sam from Obvious Candidate, who's going to lead the presentation. how to access the hidden jobs market to land your next job faster. He's going to take you to some practical demonstrations, and we're going to be running some more polls throughout the evening. So please do join in. As I said before, oh, we've got a couple of people who've lost their audio, I think. We're going to be running a special offer for people who attend tonight. And then what we'd really like to do is for you to help us select what the next webinar topic is going to be. Can you, just as I carry on, just make sure you can type in and let me know if you're hearing me okay, please. But I'm going to back on because of time. Sam?
Yes.
You can flip to the next slide, thank you.
Yeah, sorry, I was just checking on the audio there.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so my name's Jen Payne. I'm Marketing and Job Board Director of FDIN Jobs. I joined the Food and Drink Innovation 14 months ago and was responsible for the big rebrand we did and for the launch of FDIN Jobs and the Careers Portal. My background really spans across the whole brand and market spectrum, and I've spent 25 years working across brands from small to large, from diamonds to pawnbroking, and from bread making flour to bras in my time. I've worked clients agency side, I've worked freelance, and also as well. So I've had experience of kind of looking for jobs, looking for consultancy projects before I started to work here. Sam is founder of Obvious Candidate, an Obvious Candidate specialist consultancy focused on positioning job seekers to be the right next job at the best possible salary. He's the best-selling author of the Amazon Kindle book, 7 Essentials CV Updates, and he's been helping people with their careers since 2000, working with from graduates and students up to board executives. A little bit back of who we are. And the Food and Drink Innovation Network, as I said, some of you may be familiar with this, but just in case you're not, I'm going to give you a little bit of background. We're an independent professional association. We've been going around 13 years now, and we have 20 food and drink innovation members, primarily in the UK. We run events around 9 or 10 times a year on all aspects of food and drink innovation. We have a website that publishes breaking news stories 5 times a day, every day. We estimate we've probably produced about 21,000 of these over our time, and they're all on our website. And then the final part of what we do is we have a new careers service, and that's what FDIN Jobs is all about. Sam? Thank you. So FDIN Jobs is all about jobs within the food and drink innovation spectrum. So it only focuses on those areas. I think there may be 1 or 2 recruiters in the audience tonight, so useful for you to know that we are #1 already in natural search for food and drink innovation jobs in the UK. And we've used our experience and background in the industry to create job categories that are really focused on the kind of jobs that people in our audience want to get. So we've got 9 of them, and you can see them here. So everything from brand and marketing to packaging, strategy, insight and innovation, nutrition and regulatory, and so on. So they really are about helping you find the job that you want quicker. And we have some new categories that we're going to be launching soon. Finally, we've got 6 levels of roles, right from, say, very junior graduate and apprentice roles, right all the way up to director level. So again, it's about helping you get straight to what you want rather than wading through Indeed and hundreds of thousands of jobs not be very relevant for you. It's probably worth noting is the kind of roles generally come from client companies. So we've worked with over 140 of them so far. It's just a small representative sample of those. You can recognise quite a few big brands that we've worked with there. We don't actively encourage recruitment agencies to advertise with us. It really is about working with the people that we've been doing business with for the last 14 years, and these are the people that have come to our events. And it's really about giving you as the candidates the best possible experience when you are applying, because often with recruitment companies you don't know who the client company is that you're going to be advertising, applying for a job with. You don't even know if the job exists. So all the jobs on our site are genuine, and we aim to have around 10% of them direct from client companies. And there's always So it's worth coming on and having a look every so. Point I'd like to make before I hand over to Sam is that there's a lot of resources we've got on the site for you. So it's Sam, if you can flip to the next slide, please. Lovely, thank you. So we've got lots of content to help you. We've got job alerts, which you can sign up to. They're obviously all free. You can set up as many as you like. You can make them as broad or as narrow as you like. And this makes sure that if any job comes up on our site, you'll be notified of it within 24 hours, allowing you to get your application on as smartly as possible once you've worked on your CV, which is one of the things Sam can help you with. The second thing we've got is when you sign up for job alerts with us, you'll get a download of a free guide that we have to accelerating your job search within the industry. It's packed full of useful guidance and advice, all in bite-sized chunks, so well worth downloading and having a read through. And finally, we've got a lot of free research materials on the site. As I mentioned earlier, we run events 9 times a year on all aspects of food and drink innovation. And if you go to the past event downloads section of the site, you will find all the speakers' presentations from all the events we've ever run, all searchable. It's really worth getting to know your way around this, so you can have a look at what thought leaders in the industry have been saying about topics that may be relevant to the jobs and interviews that you're going to. So again, sign up for job alert, get the free guide, and please make use of all that we've got available. So that's a little bit about us, and I'm going to hand over to Sam, who's going to take you through how to access the hidden jobs market. Sam.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Jane. So that's a good introduction there to, shall we say, the more structured side of the jobs market, making sure that we can see that. And, you know, as we could see there from your introduction, all those, you know, major client companies that you've talked about there. And this is clearly a great way to access those. But today's webinar is really focusing on the jobs that never get advertised. So what I wanted to do here was just go to another poll and just ask a few more questions just to check the sort of status of where you are with your job search. So how far are you at the moment with your job search? So let's just see where everybody is. If you're just starting out, if you've been searching for a long time, if you're thinking about starting. A few of you in the early stages. So I'm thinking about something. It's a good way to be nice and prepared if you're not quite there yet. So that's great. Sometimes this search takes just a little bit too long, and you might have found that either in this job search or perhaps a previous one, it can take a long, long time, and especially the more senior you get, perhaps the more picky, rightly so, you should become, and it can take a long, long time. So this webinar is supposed to be very focused in terms of giving you some more ways to accelerate that job search. So I'm just going to end that poll there. We've got a really good mix, in fact, of people across the spectrum there in terms of how long you've been searching. One more question, which I'll ask you now as well, is your biggest challenge when it comes to job search. This is the thing, you know, what's been hardest for you? What is it that sort of keeps you awake at night? Take a look at these. Is it about finding the right opportunity? Is it selling yourself? Is it getting past that CV and application stage? Getting past the interview stage? What about dealing with the rejection? Maybe finding recruiters. Okay, so we're getting a lot on the first two at the moment. So that seems to be where so how to sell yourself and also how to find the right opportunities. Yeah, so that's great because that's something that we're going to really focus on in this session. Selling yourself effectively is not really the topic of this one. Of course, it's really important, but it's something that we will be covering in future webinars as well. Or indeed, we can help you with outside of this session. So I'm just going to end that poll. and just come back into this presentation. So this is what we've got now. In the next 45 minutes, really, we're going to be looking at just exactly what is this hidden jobs market that we've been speaking about. What's the most important rules within networking, how you can get that right. Also, a sociological theory that I promise you will change your life. It's made a massive difference to me in the past, but also in the last couple of weeks. I'll tell you about that. There's also 6 proven strategies, if you like. This is the meat of the presentation. So how to access the hidden jobs markets. I'm going to cover those for you in detail. And then I'm going to sort of wrap that up with a checklist of what you need to get set up to make this work for you, and also the actions you need to be taking ongoing. I've also got a special offer for you, for those of you only on this webinar. So if you want to take this further, then we can offer you help beyond that in a sort of done-for-you service. And then what we'll do is we'll leave a little bit of time at the end for a Q&A to wrap that up and really answer any questions you've got. But as Jane said, if you have got questions as I go through, please type them into the chat. Jane's going to be monitoring that all the way through, and we'll put the questions to me at hopefully appropriate times.
I'll do my best, Sam.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So this hidden jobs market, what is it? Well, it's the term that's used to describe the jobs which are never formally advertised. So it's the ones that don't get there onto the FDIN site that Jane's been talking about. And depending on the estimates that you look at, this could be half of jobs, or it could be up to 80% of jobs. And there's several reasons for this. Okay, so companies can actually save on advertising fees. That's one of the things they like to do. So if they can avoid advertising a role, of course, they like to save the money. They also can save on those big commissions to recruiters. And they may already have someone in mind for the role, and that could be someone internal or someone external that they're wanting to go after. And they might have spontaneous or speculative applications from outside, more on that later. And they can have candidates who are perhaps on file from previous recruitment drives. I've been speaking with a few people recently who've got exactly that situation. They got loads of good people previously, and they had almost a waiting list of people wanting to come in, so they can call on that on-file resource. And of course, as well, then there's when an employee can recommend someone, so that happens very quickly, no need to advertise again. Now, why is it so interesting? Well, look at this graphic here. So if we think about all of these jobs that maybe haven't actually hit the market, they're not being advertised. Well, the ones that are advertised, those ones that we can see, if you like in the iceberg analogy here, they're the ones that you can see above the waterline. If everyone can see them, there's a lot more competition that's going to be going for those same jobs. And you perhaps noticed this on LinkedIn. LinkedIn even started doing a sort of heat message to tell you how red hot the job applications were for a particular role. And sometimes, they go off the scale into this kind of scorching heat because so many people are applying for the same job. Whereas, at the bottom of this, in that sort of hidden market, if no one knows about the job, your competition can be very, very low if virtually nobody's looking. And that's especially true for some of the more proactive ways that I'm going to talk about of actually finding these jobs. If you get in really early, you provide yourself as a suitable and indeed an obvious candidate, then that can really save you a lot of effort fighting against the competition. So where are the hidden jobs? Well, they're everywhere. I must say, this is a really interesting thing. And the more you think about it, the more places you'll start to see them and find them. But it's the job that someone's still in. Perhaps you haven't thought about that. So sometimes the job isn't there and available yet, but someone's in it. Do you want that one in the future? And how can you make sure you get that when they move on? Maybe it's the job where there's a rumor that someone's about to leave. Perhaps the job that has a list of internal candidates lined up. Maybe you can add yourself to that list. It's the job that didn't exist before, but the boss wants it doing. So it's perhaps just a new idea that's in the boss's head that might just occur out of any meeting, especially in smaller businesses. It could be a new team or a new department being set up, and they're going to need new people to lead it and new people to be within it. It could be the job that's about to replace an underperformer. So if you can spot somebody who's not doing it, or find out that somebody's not doing their job properly or well enough, that could be another opening. And of course, it could also be the job that requires a real specialist or particular part of experience. So lots of places that these jobs can be hiding without actually being advertised. Now, the most important rule of networking, this is really critical as we move forward into this. The first thing is connections are people. Okay, so when you're doing your networking, they're not just connections, they're people. And these individuals have hopes and fears and ambitions themselves. So when you're networking, always serve your network and remember the message that givers gain, which is in fact the motto of the Business Networking International BNI group. And if you want another way of thinking about it, it was the Hard Rock Cafe, of course, that say love all and serve all. And if you go by that as just a way of working with people, networking is about much more than swapping business cards. It's about engaging with people in a way that really matters. So look after the people in your network, and you'll find that's going to serve you well for a long, long time. Now, the second most important rule of networking is this: do it before you need it. And this, you see the guy here, he's obviously got his cardboard box, he's been let go, his job has disappeared. That is not the time to start networking. And I've been working with somebody just in the last couple of weeks, and she'd been in a big company, and she just said, I never really saw the need for that, because of course in many big companies, your network is there for you. You work within different departments, you go to somebody, and the person you need to speak to is pretty much preordained by the org chart of the organization. But if you're in a smaller business, you need to work with other businesses. And the message here is just don't wait to start. Start yesterday and do some of this networking every day, or at least weekly. I'm going to be showing you throughout this presentation lots of ways that you can take that forward. Now, that sociological theory, I promised you that one. This has been so useful in my life. It's called the strength of weak ties. And it started off back in 1983. There's a professor here, Mark Granovetter from Stanford University in the US. And he did some research into networks. And if you can imagine thinking about all the people that you know and imagine them in concentric circles, he was talking about increasing your number of acquaintances. These are your weak ties. He said that your strong ties, they're the ones who are closest to you. If you imagine yourself at the center of this network, the strong ties are your close people, your family, your partner, your best friends, the ones who you're talking with all the time, maybe your closest colleagues. But the problem with strong ties is that they see the world just the way that you see the world. And what's interesting is that further out, you have your weak ties. And the weak ties, of course, get slightly different experiences of life. And I noticed this recently. I've been to a number of training sessions. I've joined different training groups, some coaching groups, some mastermind groups, and attended some different events in different parts of the world. A few of you are on the call, and I appreciate you being here, because you're my new weak ties. We don't see each other all the time. We've perhaps met each other once in person, but we're now an interesting network. And the very idea of being on this call with me, hopefully I'm sharing new ideas with you. And this is what weak ties do. Weak ties, Granovetter spotted out, are the source of so many things. So he said, increase your number of acquaintances, these weak ties, the people are a bit further out, because your weak ties are your best source of new opportunities, new jobs, new leads, and new ideas. And what's really interesting these days, of course, it used to be hard to keep track of them all, but something like LinkedIn is a perfect way partly to meet new people, to connect with new people, and to keep in the mind and serve these weak ties. So use your social connections, use your social networking to really keep in touch. Some people don't post on social. They are passive users of social networking, or you could call it antisocial. So you don't see from them, but then they're out of mind. So it's very important that you are sharing relevant information on a regular basis so that you stay top of mind for your particular area of expertise. Then when they need someone, they'll come to you. So these 6 strategies now, these are the proven strategies that are going to help you to find and access those particular jobs that are out there. And the first one, hopefully is no surprise, but you really must know what you want. So I call this your job criteria list, and it defines what's really your ideal next role. Now, it may be as few as 8 or maybe up to, say, 14 elements. That's what I find when I'm working with my clients individually. And we do this with most of my private clients in Obvious Candidate when we're trying to find them their ideal next job. What this list is likely to include, these elements are likely to be things like what you want to do. So what do you want to do with your time? What's the location of your ideal job? The size of the company. You're trying to work for a big organization or a smaller organization. What would the job title likely be, not necessarily specifically the job title, but maybe a list of potential job titles. What's the attitude of the company? Are you looking for something which is very much solid and stable, or do you want something that's risk-taking, entrepreneurial, very innovative? What about the culture? Do you want a place that's very supportive, very friendly, or do you want something which is more dynamic, maybe more aggressive? Different people want different things. What about flexible working? Do you want to be in the office all the time, or do you want to be able to work from home some of the time, working on the road? And what about the level of remuneration, benefits, the amount of holiday time, travel requirements, or it could be travel opportunities, depending on the way you see it. For some people, perhaps with young families, travel becomes a very difficult thing to sort of fit in. But for other people, maybe starting out in their career, the more travel you get, perhaps the more interesting the role would be. And about promotion opportunities as well. Is there going to be a space for you to step forward into the next job from where you're going to be going to? So you get this list, and this list actually becomes your way to evaluate the job opportunities and jobs. Now you could apply, and I hear this is the worst thing for me when I'm working with a client, if they tell me that they've applied to 50 jobs or 100 jobs, sometimes I hear. And whether it's actually as many as that, it doesn't really matter. The point is that's too many. What you need to be doing is focusing on jobs that you really want to do and giving a large amount of attention to that job. Really, really focusing on making sure that you apply properly. So that's very, very, very important.
Dan, do you think that if you talk to a recruitment consultant with this list, that they might think you're too fussy? Or would they appreciate you being this defined about what it is that you'd like to do?
I think they would be delighted, and I think you absolutely identify yourself as an obvious candidate and as a serious job seeker. You become somebody who they can really help, because sometimes, imagine being a recruiter if someone turns up on the phone and says, "I'm looking for a job in marketing," or "I'm looking for a job in innovation." Well, that's no brief at all. And if those of you on this call, many of you are working in new product development, you're working in sort of innovation, you'll have worked with agencies, or maybe you've been on the agency side receiving the brief. The brief is absolutely critical. It's either defining where you want to go, where you need to go, or how someone can help you. And you've perhaps been in the situation as well where somebody will talk about exactly what they didn't get from an agency. They'll blame the agency, but often it comes down to the brief. So great question, but the more detail you can give someone, the better it's going to be. The next thing this list becomes as well is your script for networking. Now that networking might be done, Jane, as you've just said, with a recruiter, but much more likely it's going to be with your group of weak ties, okay? So we're going to come on to that next, but this is your script, because people would love to help you, but they can't help you unless they know what you're looking for. So you have to know what it is to be able to share it. Imagine just having a conversation where you're just rambling. Not good enough. Because if you imagine these two speech bubbles, when you meet someone from your weak ties, how do they know what you want? You've got to be very, very clear to get the clarity into their head like it's in your head. Then they can start to help you. Which leads us directly on to strategy number 2, which is what I call your Dream 30. And the Dream 30, these are the 30 people who you feel best in the world could link you to your dream job. These are the people that you may know. There may be people that you don't yet know. They could be celebrity business people or famous leaders within your industry. They could be current colleagues, and obviously you need to go carefully talking about moving jobs within your existing organization. But you might have trusted contacts where you can have that conversation. And of course, then it could be former colleagues from previous jobs, your favorites from previous jobs. It could be classmates, either from a recent MBA or a course, or classmates from all the way back, for some of us, back in university, or even conference delegates, people that you've met recently. So by having this list of 30 people who could connect you, you then have a list of people that you can go and speak to. These are your most effective weak ties. And what I really suggest is use Excel to track your progress with these. So take column A in Excel and list your 30 connections. Then next to it, you'll want their email address, you'll want their telephone number if you've got that, and then you need to work out exactly how you're going to approach each of them. So, but if you have 30 conversations, so you start and you reconnect with 30 people from your core network, you will, I promise you, you will find strong job leads in the next 30 days. So how do you do that? I don't want to just leave you there with just telling you to go and do it. How do you do it? Well, warm people up slowly. If you've not spoken to someone for a while, we don't want to be proposing marriage on the first date. If you haven't spoken to someone since university, and that's several years, don't go jumping in saying, oh, can you help me get a job? Because it's too much too soon. What you need to do is just reconnect gradually and, reawaken that relationship. Remember, as we've said, givers gain. That's at the background of all of this. But you can reach out maybe by email, by phone, by text, by social media. You could send one of those nice ideas. Sometimes you see something on the internet, you see something on social media, and you think, that reminds me of John, that reminds me of Jane. And what you do is you just capture that and send it to them. And you say, I saw this and thought of you. And you'll find that's amazing how that can warm up a sort of an older connection. People really appreciate that you did that. They'll reach back out to you. Another thing is to link people to opportunities. Be a connector. And, you've probably been at somewhere like a wedding or a family party where you've been able to connect two people together, and maybe they've gone on and had their own relationship, even got married. It's a lovely thing to do, to be able to connect people. And it's the same for, it's not just about relationships and weddings. It can be, of course, about careers. And it's a beautiful thing to be able to help somebody move into their next role. But people can't help you, and they would love to, but they can't help you unless they know what you're looking for. So that's, of course, where your criteria list comes in. Another great way is endorsements. And I hear so much abuse of endorsements on LinkedIn. People say, oh, well, they don't really mean anything. Well, don't think of them as some kind of currency. Think of them as a way of getting noticed, because people do notice. They get that email that says they've been endorsed, and everyone loves to be told they're good at something. It's a fabulous way of, in an easy way for you, getting in touch with somebody and just reminding that you exist. And you'll find that if you endorse 8 or 9 or 10 people, you'll find that 3 or 4 at least will come back and endorse you for something. And you can start the conversation that way. Another way is to write unsolicited LinkedIn recommendations. How often have you received one of those, and how good does it feel? When someone bothers to say you're good and they publicly announce that you've got a good skill, that's a wonderful feeling. It's a wonderful way to sort of reawaken a relationship again. So think through people from your past. Think about your Dream 30. How can you thank them? How can you recommend them for something in a genuine way? You'll find that's amazing how that will start up more conversations and open the door. You also activate what's called the law of reciprocity. And you may have heard of that. But essentially, if I help you, you feel it's human nature. You just feel that you would like to help me back. So help others, and you'll find they're ready to help you. And once you've warmed up the relationship, then maybe it's time to suggest either a telephone call or a coffee or a lunch, or depending on the relationship, a beer or a dinner. Reconnect and go and get into the detail at that point. So establish good rapport, establish confidentiality. Tell them, do you know what? I need to keep this on the down low. I need to keep this quiet for now because I'm just starting to think about my job search. But I really appreciate you. I know you've got connections as well. I'd love to hear if you can help me with this. And then start to share your list of job criteria. Now, you probably don't want to give someone the list, and you may do depending on the relationship, but you probably just want to be able to talk it through in a very clear way. So your Dream 30 would love to help you. They'd love to connect you to the next job. Just make it easier for them.
Just a reminder, if you have any questions as we go through, please just type them in the audio in the chat box on the right-hand side, and I'll pass them on to Sam as we go through.
So here's how that works. If you speak to 30, this is your numbers game. 20 of them, you'll just have a great conversation. It'll be good networking for the future. You reawaken, you keep those people on side, you help each other. 5 of them will be really good conversations. You might talk about other topics. You might get other business from those. You might sort of start talking about other things. So that will be just great. 3 of them will turn into immediate leads and connections to opportunities. That's jobs that you could be applying for straight away. And 2 of them will come back to you within the next 30 to 60 days and say, Jane, do you know what? I'm so pleased that we had that conversation. Do you know what? I've just bumped into John. John's looking for someone to come and do this job. I've got to put you 2 in touch. I promise you that will happen. And those numbers are based on what's happened with my clients over the last 13 years. So it always happens. And what I suggest is don't stop there. You know, if the 2 or the 3 that you get that are either immediate connections and opportunities or that come through aren't enough, keep going. Go to the next 10 in your dream. Create a dream 40 at that point. But you'll find some of the other 20 will come back to you as well the following month, because they will then bump into ideas that they know are relevant for you. So keep in touch, keep going if you need to. Strategy number 3, make the invisible visible. Okay, so if stuff is out there that's invisible, how can you find it? Well, these days there's tools, of course, and this is a fabulous one. Google Alerts. I've just copied this out of my Google account. I, of course, need to know if somebody on the web is talking about Obvious Candidate or about me at Obvious Candidate. And so I need to know those facts. So I just put together an alert, and every day at 5 p.m. UK time, I get an email from Google that tells me everything that mentions my keywords. Now, you can do that for names of people, names of brands, names of companies, job titles, and of course, don't forget your own name, because it's good to know when people are talking about you on the web. So set those up, and Google do it every single day. Yeah, you also know if no one's talking about you. If you get a stony silence every day at 5 o'clock, you know how unexciting your keywords are, or indeed that you are. That's true. So I hadn't thought of that, Jane. So too many people talking about me. So strategy number 4, approach companies directly. Okay, this is really important. The good news for you is that most job seekers are terrified. Okay, you may be terrified yourself, but you don't need to be. Okay, they are never going to reach out. You know, probably 90 out of 100 job seekers would never dare to approach a company directly that isn't, so they're not advertising a job. And that means that they'd never dream of reaching out to the employer. So if you want to find a role, first do your homework. Okay, don't start speaking to them in an unprepared state. You need to research the company, you need to research the person you're going to approach, and you're going to connect with them on a point of interest. So maybe they're a blogger, maybe they're doing something within the company, maybe they've launched a product recently. Find out what they're doing, do your research, and then connect with them and build some rapport. Don't start going in and start diving in straight after the job. Worst of all, their job, because you're just going to rile people at that point. But eventually then, once you've built rapport on the other issue, then you can ask about opportunities. You've shown an interest, you've perhaps demonstrated what you're good at. And if they haven't got any opportunities in that company right now, keep in touch. Okay, so keep that one warm. Now, you're going to tell me, of course, that you don't know their email. Well, now you do. Okay, so this is my LinkedIn account, and you'll notice that probably different to yours, I have 2 buttons there. You normally have that blue button that says View Profile As when you go into your profile. Whenever I go to anybody's profile now, I have an Email Hunter button. And all you need to do to get one of these as well is you go to www. And it should be Email Hunter then, sorry, not Mail Hunter, Email Hunter, and go and get the Chrome extension and also get the LinkedIn plugin. And you will also get this button. All you need to do is go to somebody's LinkedIn profile and click on that. It will give you their email address. Okay, so there are ways these days.
Is that free?
It is free. It is free.
And it's just emailhunter.co.
That's right. That's right. I didn't miss the M off, but unfortunately I did miss the E. So okay. Emailhunter.co, not .com. And if you search on Email Hunter, it will all come up. And if you do need to use the Chrome browser, Google's Chrome browser for your web search, and then that will show up inside your LinkedIn. A very effective way of getting the email address. It'll even give you a percentage effectiveness of how likely it is that they found the precise best email address to get to that person.
I've learned something new tonight. That's fantastic. Thank you.
There you go. So, yeah, I'm trying to share the new information. That's what it's all about. And then the strategies, number 5. So here we go. This is about getting out there. Okay, do not expect jobs to just come and find you. You need to be proactive with this. So attend events and ask people. Go to job fairs, go to industry events, go to organized networking events, and attend FDIN seminars. I'm not sure if any of you were at the event yesterday with Jane. Jane, you had a rather good time, according to your email this morning. So hangover this morning. Hangover, you were fully networking. No doubt you were talking to people.
Yes,
so building rapport. Now, the amazing thing is about this networking, you didn't necessarily need a job, but you've built relationships yesterday. You've spoken to people. So when you do need that, you know who to go and contact. And of course, once you've done that, then you can get back in touch and tell them how great it was to see them at the event and say, oh, by the way, now I'm looking for my next role. I'm interested in this kind of thing. Can you let me know if you know something? And they'll have a different visibility. This is the whole point of weak ties. Your weak ties from an event, a networking event, like going to an FDIN seminar, they have a different view of the market to you. They hear different things. They've got a slightly different set of connections. They may know the perfect role. So bring them into your Dream 30 and start working with them. So keep in touch and follow up. Strategy number 6, be ready. All of this stuff goes nowhere if when somebody needs you to jump to action to go and get the job, you're still in the starting blocks. So be ready. It means have your CV primed and ready to send. Have your LinkedIn profile updated. And of course, you can lock it down before updating it to be more discreet. That's really important because you don't want necessarily, nothing looks like someone's on the move from their job more than 15 LinkedIn profile updates in one weekend. That's shouting someone's on the move. And now what you can do, of course, then is have business cards ready, not your current company cards, but get your own personal cards done. It's not expensive. So that way, when you meet someone, you can be professional, you can be connected personally rather than through your company. And of course, know your ideal job criteria and at least have a 30-second version that you have in your mind, in your head, so that you can have a quick chat with somebody over a coffee and say, this is what I'm looking for. So that's about being ready. So just to recap on this, to make sure that we have got our action list, these are the things that you need to do to access the hidden jobs market. First off, know your job criteria. Decide your ideal job criteria. If you're not sure how to do that, we have a coaching program that covers that specifically. It's called Career Direction Exploration, and we arrive at those very well considered criteria by the end of that session. We also then need to be building our network, and I mean start now. And I don't care if you've already got 5,000 or 10,000 weak ties, keep going because you never know the next ones. And then you need to work with them to keep them warm and activated. So use your social media, use your LinkedIn to share and be famous for what you're doing. So sharing updates each week to be visible and be focused. But keep adding weak ties to your network. Within your hundreds or thousands of connections out there, identify your dream 30. Okay, these are the priority 30 because you can't deal with 500 people. You just can't. But there are out of your 500, 30 who will be the best ones. Some of them you might know at the moment, and some of them might be outside of your network. And you said, you know what, if I could get to that one person, they would really help me open this door. So you might want to add them to your network at this point. Create your Excel tracker and connect with them all and keep track of where you've got to, because you can't keep track in your head of 30 conversations. You need to know where you've got to with each one. So check down, have you endorsed them on LinkedIn? Have you written them a recommendation on LinkedIn? Have you connected via email? Have you had a Skype call? Have you met for a coffee? Have you told them about your ideal job criteria? And you want all of these people to know that by the end of the month, if you can, if you're trying to accelerate this through, or sometimes it takes a bit longer than that. It takes some time to do this, but track it in your Excel tracker. So this is a really precision task. Then check who's viewed your LinkedIn profile. Okay, use that facility and reach out to them as well, because they are interested in you for some reason. Find out what they were looking for. Can you either help them and build some rapport, or maybe they're looking to recruit you? And visit profiles of people you would like to work for, because that's a great way of starting a conversation. Once you visited them, they visit you, you can then, it's like a digital dance, you can start to engage them with a conversation. Next up, what you need to do is join relevant groups as well and be active in discussions and connect. Endorse people and write genuine recommendations. Set up those Google alerts on key job titles and companies. And before you approach companies directly, do your homework on the individuals, on the company, so you really know your stuff, so that you're not embarrassing yourself when you don't want to burn those opportunities. You need to do your homework very, very well. And then approach on a different point. Connect with somebody, not just about a job. Connect on something that you can help them. Remember, always be giving to gain. And then get your materials ready in advance. Make sure your CV is ready to go. Make sure your LinkedIn profile is optimized and that you have your personal business cards ready. If you need help with any of that, that's what Obvious Candidate is all about. We're there to position you and your marketing materials to help your job search. And then attend events like the FDIN event yesterday. Sign up to events like that. Meet within your industry. I mean, that's just perfect. It's the whole reason for having a best practice club for food and drink innovation. or if you're not within food and drink, whichever category you're working within, attend the events, because it's meeting those new people. You're going to find new weak ties. So I walk my talk. Let's connect. If we're not already connected on social media, find me there on LinkedIn. Let's connect. Welcome to my network, and join me on Facebook as well. Sure, that's my personal Facebook, but let's get involved. Let's understand each other and how we can help each other, because I'm really passionate about making sure that this actually works and gets done. So we did promise you a special offer. If you've heard, okay, that sounds great, Sam, but I'm not really sure how to go ahead and do it. If you'd like even more help on that, then we have a done-for-you service on this, and we really make this happen for you. So within the next 30 days, if you use our hidden job service, we'll give you that career direction coaching. It's all about working with me independently. What we'll do is we'll sort out your job search criteria. We'll go through your Dream 30 planning. We'll set up your networking plan and your daily actions to get that done. It's normally a £500 plus VAT coaching program, but if you're on this webinar, we'll go through, and in the next 30 days, we'll fix this for you. And I've only got 4 available because this is working with me personally, but we'll do this for just £297, and we'll sort this out for you in the next 30 days so that you can really access the hidden jobs market. So if you're interested in that, if that's useful for you, then please go ahead and contact me there just on the email. So sam@obviouscandidate.com. So which brings us to our Q&As, and as planned, we're perfectly on time here. We've got a Q&A session here, so just very interested to hear if you've got questions, and if you'd either type those into the chat, or if you've been sharing those with Jane already. Let's sort of see if you've got any questions, and I'm very happy to sort of stay on the line now and answer those for you.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Sam. Can we just before we do that, can we just before we wrap up at 9, just ask about the next webinar so we get anybody's feedback on that? Have you got that last chart there, Sam?
Sure have.
Thank you.
That would be this one, and I can...
Yeah, perfect. So obviously we're looking to run our next webinar, and I'd be very interested to know which of these webinar topics you would find the most useful. So I think Sam may have a poll set up on that. Have you, Sam?
It's right there.
Great. So if you could just vote for me, that would be fantastic. Okay. Fabulous. So writing your best ever CV is coming out clear first at the moment, and then salary negotiation creeping up for second.
Who wouldn't want to know how to make the most money possible?
Me, fabulous. Actually, no, we're now at a pretty even split. That's great. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Right, back to the chat. Kenny had a question actually, which was, if you're viewing a profile of somebody else, should you view it as hidden or open?
Well, it's a good question, and it very much depends. Mostly, I would say that you want to view it as open, because if you want to get noticed most of the time, you want someone to know that you're interested in them, unless you've got a real reason for not being visible yet. So you might, for example, want to go in and do a stealth sort of sweep through and understand a little bit more about somebody without them knowing. But usually, if it's an interviewer, for example, or someone that you want to connect with, you want them to know that you care enough about your interview, that you've done your research, that you've done your homework. So I would, if you've got an interview coming up, I would definitely go in and be visible, and sometime the week before, as early as possible, definitely go and have a look at their profile, and they will probably then see that you've taken that initiative. Likewise, as I said earlier on the call, if you are wanting to go to a particular company, you could look at the either the recruiters or the people who are currently in the role similar to the one that you want at that company. They will see you have viewed their profile, and they will probably view your profile. And like I said, that for me is like a digital dance. They've spoken to you, you've spoken to them, or you've looked at each other. The next bit after looking at each other is to start a conversation. And don't, I would say, jump in on the "have you got a job" question. That's just too much too soon. It's like the marriage proposal on the first date. But what you need to do is connect on some other point of interest. Find a group that you have in common, find something within the industry that you have in common, and start talking about that. Once you've built some rapport, then you can ask the question about opportunities within their business at the moment. And it may be they haven't got any this month, but keep in touch. Don't overdo it on the pressurizing for jobs. But that's why I think it's important to be visible. There's only very few cases, I would say, where it's a good idea to go into a stealth mode. Mostly you want to be known for doing what you're doing.
Right, okay, thank you. And in terms of sort of connecting up with people that you don't know, what's your view on sort of email and sort of, that point where you can choose the option that says, I don't know you, but I want to connect up with you? Do you think that's a good idea to do?
Absolutely. These are where your weak ties are. So even this week, I have connected with various people within the marketing world globally who didn't know me before. But what I've realized is, do you know what? People are incredibly friendly. When you reach out in an appropriate way and you're interested in them, the response you get is tremendous. And I've been working with a few real marketing heavyweights in the last couple of weeks. And what I did was I didn't go in there and say to them, have you got this for me? I said, would you like some media publicity? Would you like me to write some articles on what you're doing to help promote what you're trying to get across to the market at the moment? What do you think they said? Yes. They were desperate for that. They were desperate for having someone to help them achieve what they're trying to achieve. It doesn't matter whether they're famous in your eyes or scarily successful already. Speak to them. You'll be amazed how warm people are and how they appreciate someone who's also working in the same direction as them. Just try it.
Great. Okay. Thank you. And another question. To friend you on Facebook, and you think, is there something suspicious going on here? Is he trying to track what I'm doing? Have you got any thoughts on that?
Jane, sorry, your line broke up slightly there. I just missed the first half of the question.
Okay. You've just started your job hunt and your MD has just tried to friend you on Facebook. Is there any kind of sense of paranoia? Should you do anything about that if suddenly your MD wants to become or trying to leave?
If your MD has been your MD for some time and then suddenly you start a job search and suddenly they're on your Facebook, I'd get very suspicious at that point if they've not tried to be your friend on Facebook before. But if your mind's made up and you know what you're doing, you just need to be clear with what you're doing. I've had a conversation literally this week with someone who's got to a tricky situation in their job, and trust me, that happens more often than you might imagine. So if you're struggling in your work at the moment, you're not happy, you're far from alone. But what had happened in this situation was they'd just fallen out, basically. And it wasn't one of those sort of public falling outs. It was one of those almost unspoken falling outs. And it was just becoming very, very uncomfortable. And what was done this week was the individual concerned actually just approached the MD and had a very open conversation, said it's not working. I know that it's not working from either side. I want to get this out on the table, and had a conversation about moving on or about sorting it out. And what I learned from that was, in that case, how helpful that was, because he knew that he was going to be leaving anyway. So he'd got, again, nothing to lose. But what he actually did was cleared the air, and has meant that maybe for the next 3 weeks, 3 months, as he's negotiated, he can have a good working relationship. He can probably leave with a recommendation, but he's just let the company know that he's playing straight. And it also means the company can then act to sort of replace that position as well. So often, honesty the best policy as usual. Help people to understand what's going on, and that way, then you can join them as friends on Facebook. Because you want them as a friend ongoing. You don't want your former MD being anything other than a fan of yours. And very often, I think if you deal with it in that sort of professional and brave way, you can actually sort of turn that awkward situation into a positive.
Yeah, I think the expression is being a good leaver is a word I've heard, which has always been very
beautiful. Yeah, absolutely.
Good leaver. Okay, I've got a question from, forgive me if I pronounce this wrong, Tira. What if you're new to the industry and you don't have much to offer your target, nor much in common to casually bring up and use as a basis for connection? What else can you do aside from directly coming out with, I'd really like to work for you?
Tira, thank you for that. Okay, it's a good question, but seriously, come on. We're in marketing. You know, we make this stuff up all the time. Okay, you can think of something. Okay, go into you know, maybe this person that you're wanting to speak to has their own blog. Maybe they don't, but maybe they are doing something with a brand. And in that case, if their brand has done something, maybe it's launched a new product, maybe it has launched a new advertising campaign, maybe their competitor has launched a product. Read up on that, have a look at what their competitors are doing, or find something where someone's talking about either their brand or their competitor's brand on YouTube or some other social media, and take it to them and say, I just spotted this. Here's something to open a conversation with. You know, so that's the way to do it. There's so many ways. So don't go thinking that, trust me, being new in an industry, not a problem. You know, just you take a second and think about it. If you can't think of a question, email me. I'll help you think of one. I'm great at questions.
And one other thing I've found that works quite often is to, if you are new into an industry and you're not sure, is to ask someone for their advice. Actually to go in and say, can I buy you a cup of coffee and ask for your advice on something? Because people love being asked for their advice.
Beautiful, absolutely. Absolutely, it's flattering in the best way. Very nice, yeah.
And we've got a question from Joy, which I think means, is it better to send an email or LinkedIn connection rather than actually use snail mail and actually print a copy of your CV and send it to somebody hard copy?
Can you still do that?
I think you can. I think stamps still exist, yes.
Yeah, I've got some from Christmas in 2013 actually. So no, I don't think I'd be sending it via post these days. No, most people, they're just expecting to receive things electronically. Things move so much faster these days. But again, Joy, is a good question. I'm only joking on that. The important thing is really to establish the right rapport before you send it. Because especially if you're approaching a company directly, you know, it's good just to sort of establish a relationship before you bounce the CV into their hands. Because if you catch them at the wrong time, you know, maybe they're just busy with something else with a CV, it's so easy for them to delete it. Whereas if you start again on this sort of other point, like we were just saying in the previous answer, start a question on another point of interest, build a little bit of rapport, and then bring the CV in. It's a better way of doing it because you've got less chance of it hitting them at a bad time.
Great. Okay. And one last question, because I'm conscious we're at that 9 o'clock. You've suggested lots of different things. How do you prioritise them? Because obviously there's a lot to do, and if you're already in a job, there's not a lot of time left at the end of the day. So rather than feeling like you failed to get everything done, then is there a way to prioritise all these great ideas you've suggested?
You're right, and there's that sort of adage that finding a job is a full-time job. And I spoke with someone just this last week, and you know, she decided it was so important to her she was going to step out of her existing role to be able to give it the time that it took. But I believe, you know, she was in a relationship where she was able to do that, and so she was kind of covered. I don't normally recommend that as income in terms of income, because you might think I'll find something in 3 to 6 months, and I've seen it take longer. Put it that way. So my advice is usually stay in your job until you've actually signed the paperwork. You know, you really want to get some ink on the dotted line to make sure that it's a done deal before you step out of the job. So how do you make use of that limited time? Well, be networking every single day. Use your LinkedIn. Be sharing things and identify your Dream 30 to begin with. That's quite a quick thing to do. You can be thinking about your Dream 30 from, you know, who are the most important people in your career who could help you step onto the next stage of the ladder. You could start identifying those while you're on your commute to work. You know, be careful if you're driving, but you know, you can even, you know, jot it down, you know, at traffic lights, whatever it might be, you know. But if you're on the train, easily done. Okay, so think about that. Maybe if you're out walking or running or walking the dog, anything like that, start thinking who they are, so you can fit those kind of tasks in very, very easily. Another one then is to make sure that your CV, your LinkedIn, and you've got your business card, making sure those things are all up to date and ready. Now, it does take time. CV writing is a big task. The important thing is to know your criteria first and know where you're headed. So list your criteria first, then make sure that your CV is tailored to help you reach that end. Likewise with your LinkedIn as well. And then it's a question of prioritizing these 30. Even if you only get a chance to email one person or endorse one person that day, you know, for the list, what I recommend you start doing is make a list of your job search steps that you can take that week, and just try and do some of these small steps so that you at least keep some momentum in your job search. Not everything takes a lot of time. You know, it takes almost no time to endorse your 30 people for a few of their skills. So you can step in and really make it happen. You know, lots of little things you can be doing to get started.
Fantastic. Good. Well, we're at 9 o'clock now, so I think it's up. I'll just on the line for a couple more minutes if anybody has any last questions. But if you're on these, email at any feedback you've got on the webinar, please email me. And we will send out copies of this recording in a couple of days' time. Please share it. And any feedback you've got on the evening, you can also write in the chat box now. So thank you very much for your time and for attending tonight our FDIN Jobs webinar.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure sharing that with you. Been a pleasure sharing these tried and tested and proven ideas. So I just put it out to you now. Go and put some of these into practice. Do let me know how you get on. I love to hear success from the people that we've been helping on these webinars. So keep us in the loop, and the very best of luck with your job search. So I hope that's been a really effective session. Go and try these things.